Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Aero Discussions. I'm Captain Logan.
And I'm Eric.
And first off, I want to apologize for this coming up so late. Eric was out of pocket for a couple days. Eric, it's all your fault.
It's not all my fault. You just lost internet, and then you got internet, and then we were on the phone, and that didn't work.
Yeah, no, but that all happened in the same day at least. So anyway, I want to talk real quick about changes to this show. We are going to start opening, if this goes well, with
If people
questions.
don't hate it.
If people don't hate it, with questions and comments from our audience from last episode. Sometimes people leave comments where they address things that we talked about last episode. Sometimes they'll correct us on things that I feel like they should get credit for and that we should address.
Sometimes, like 6 people an episode will keep telling us to mention the hospital named after the Blue Lantern, and we still haven't done it.
Oh man, I didn't even catch that one. Okay. Well, anyway, so today we're gonna start trying this, and I know I'm risking the show being even longer because I know our podcasts have been running close to or over an hour lately. But I thought it would be nice to have a little bit of discourse with our audience, and also a little bit later in the show, we're even going to bring up something that somebody from Facebook mentioned about this particular episode that we're talking about today. So if you ever want to send us things to make sure that we talk about or to suggest we talk about, obviously we'll select things. We won't talk about everything. You can always send us things to personal message on Facebook on YouTube, or you can send us messages on Facebook or on Twitter, all at Geekvolution. And after the next one that airs, and we might talk about your questions and comments on our next show and make this more of a conversation with everybody involved. So let's go ahead and talk about some stuff that people left comments about last time. The first one comes from Comics Kid, who says, and this was, by the way, of course, about the last episode of the Clock King episode, Time of Death. He says, what I want to know is, how did the media find out about the Clock King? He was a mystery to everyone in the show. Lance suggested that the guys who robbed Cord Industries were working for someone, and then the hood guy stopped the bus from hitting the train, and then suddenly the news is aware that someone was responsible for that almost tragedy. How? When did the news find out? I didn't pick up on that. I think he's got a point.
Oh, no, he absolutely has a point. Clock King hacked the news and told them.
It is one of those things that comes kind of right after a commercial break, so there could have been a cutscene or something.
Yeah.
The next one comes from Sean Jaramillo, who says, for the record, it was Wing Chun that Sarah suggested, not Wang Chung, though that would be hilarious. I knew you were wrong about that, but I didn't know what the actual thing was, and I kind of wanted you to be right. So.
I kind of assumed I was wrong, so.
Mufree corrects us on the last scene with Sin and Sarah taking place in the Verdant storeroom and not in the clock tower. I couldn't remember where it was, but thanks for that. And finally, Necoats52 has a lot of good ideas about why, further reasons as to why Lance really should know that Green Arrow is Oliver Queen. We talked about this a little bit last episode, and he says, first of all, he's seen Oliver's secretary working with Green Arrow. Yeah, we talked about that. Secondly, his daughter works with Green Arrow, and Oliver knew she came back before they did. So there's that, and we talked about that a little bit. But then this is when he gets into some stuff that we didn't discuss. Well, I guess I did say this. When he stands in the light, just by looking at his chin, you can easily tell it's Oliver. But then he says, Oliver and his daughter were both thought dead. Oliver comes back, and around the same time, a vigilante appears, and at some point, they were closely linked to the point where Oliver was almost in prison. So there has been suspicion. And now, his daughter comes back, and she's also a vigilante. It would make perfect sense for him to reconsider the Oliver being Green Arrow thing. I didn't even think about that. He's got a really great point. You took him to jail for it.
Yeah, I'd actually kind of forgotten that it happened, which is something I'm learning I really don't like about watching shows like this, because this is the first time I've watched a show like this since maybe Heroes. I forget so much stuff just because I'm watching it week to week and not all in one chunk.
And even watching them twice a week like we do, I still don't always remember everything because there's that week in between. Sometimes there's a hiatus, and you get summer hiatus.
We have another hiatus coming up this week.
Oh, man, do we really?
Yeah.
That's unfortunate because I'm just soaking this stuff up. I kind of don't want it to
They keep
quit.
doing this to us.
I know. But and the thing is too, we keep acting like it's unusual or something, but this is a normal TV thing, right? Like there's always because we keep calling it a hiatus, but like you only have so many episodes a season. There's always every now and again a week or two there where you don't have one.
It's just
Um,
it's weird.
there was also a clever comment I wanted to mention. Brain Damage says, "I don't want Clock King to get Mirakuru. That would really tick me off."
Yeah, it's like in the Arkham games. Is it Titan is the or is it Venom?
Yes.
Yes, Titan. Yes, Venom.
No, it's Titan.
Okay, Titan. Yeah, yeah. It's just like everybody gets Mirakuru. They just all get jacked. Oh man,
Titan.
there's gonna be an episode that's totally gonna sell you. That's gonna end with Clock King jacked, and he's gonna say, "Wait till I get a load of me."
Stop making fun of the fact that whenever anybody quotes Batman '89, I get
It's not
excited.
my fault that you like the Dark Knight comic.
I liked that line, which made me like the comic more, and then I read the next issue, and then I didn't like it anymore. Moving on. Did you not catch the fact that what was funny about that was that he said the word tick?
No, I didn't.
He said that was why I mentioned. He said that would really tick me off, and I thought that was really
Oh, I didn't even get that. That was
Oh, by the way, with Arkham, I meant to mention this. The Titan formula was based on Venom. That was the whole deal
I
there.
I I thought there was some kind of connection because I know Bane has it, but
Okay, let's go ahead and go on to today's episode. Today we're talking about The Promise, where we finally get to see Oliver having to deal with the fact that Slade is back from the island. I thought this episode was absolutely gripping. I could not believe the tension that you could cut with a knife during all of the scenes inside of the Queen Mansion. And I thought it was really interesting, Eric, that we have another episode, if I'm not mistaken, that is mostly on island at about the same time as we had one last season.
yeah, I looked it up. Last season was episode 14. This season is episode 15.
That's really cool.
Now
And
I don't remember because I haven't gone back. Last season was it all island or did we get flashes to modern day?
we got a little bit of modern day in that. It wasn't all. Well, I think we did. Uh,
See, I felt like it was all island, but I couldn't remember.
honestly, at this point, I don't remember exactly either. But I thought that it was incredibly effective that we had to wait so long to see what happened inside the mansion, because I don't know if you had this, but while I was watching the island stuff, I was excited about the island stuff because, well, I guess ship, excuse me, I guess ship stuff mostly, but I mean like the flashbacks. I was into what was going on there, but I felt like that really helped the suspense of the present day stuff, having to wait for it.
Oh yeah, it was fun to see like a bottle episode on top of the flashback episode. It was all very, closed rooms. So it's kind of funny because pretty much nothing happens in the house, but I always kept waiting for it to cut back and like Slade's just like attacking people with swords.
Yeah, but then you got all that really great like nuance and innuendo and
Oh,
stuff.
I don't literally mean nothing is happening, but I mean like it was so tense. I just kept waiting for it to like cut back and like Slade kills Moira or something, And it was just them
Well,
walking around looking at art.
and how about that scene where Moira walks up and or walks off, and not 3 seconds later, Oliver's going at Slade with a screwdriver.
Oh
I love that.
yeah.
Oh, that was really cool. Um, I really didn't expect after last episode where they meet like that
I
that
thought
they.
he was leaving last episode. I didn't expect him to stay.
I didn't think they'd take that scene and draw it out the whole episode. I thought that was a really neat idea.
Although it did raise one question.
Sure.
No one noticed how awkward both of them were acting. Like, because at the end she says something to Oliver. They clearly know each other.
Yeah, you know what? I had the same note. I thought it was and I get what they're trying to do, and they almost make it happen. But I still questioned it. Where Moira is projecting her own emotions so much onto this that they want us to think that that would blind her from what's really going on. Because there's a lot of places where there is an innuendo that you can take to be about both Slade and Moira in relation to Oliver, but the problem is the moment they first meet, it's just so obvious they've met before. And then as they carry that on, it's still pretty obvious. So when she's getting all angry at him, thinking that he's just acting this way because he's mad at her, it is still slightly hard to swallow. Now, you said it was weird that nobody was picking up on it. Really, the only person that's there that could is Moira.
Well, Thea
And then
shows up.
I no, and that's what I was going to say. But then when Thea shows up, I buy it more there because I feel like Oliver is more reserved while she's in the room for the most part.
Well, but then Roy shows up and Sarah shows up, and they're both really awkward with Slade. And like Moira's not picking up on this at
On
all.
anything, yeah, that's a really good, and just the way they're all
Like that
eyeballing each other.
handshake that Roy and Slade have. Like Moira didn't even
Yeah,
notice.
and at the very least, the moment that Oliver says, "Okay, Slade, what do you want to do now?"
By the way, I love that
I
I love the handshake.
Did you notice how they turned their hands? Like they grab their hands, and then as the camera pans up toward whoever else walks in, Sarah or Thea, I forget who it is. Their hands turn a little bit, like they're really testing each other's strength, and I think it's really interesting and fun to watch the sheer amount of stuff that Slade
Well,
learns.
and did you feel like there was an immediate kind of acknowledgement between the two of them that they both have near cougar?
Oh, exactly. Yeah, that's just what they're both learning. Well, and of course, Roy knows it already
Yeah,
because he's
yeah.
been told, but Slade wouldn't know that. And I was really surprised, and maybe I was just so captivated that I wasn't paying enough attention to details. I was really surprised that it didn't occur to me that Slade was leaving cameras until you see it at the end. They actually blindsided me with that. I
I
didn't pick up.
watched it again and I still didn't fully pick up on it.
Isn't that cool?
Yeah.
I
Except
thought they did a great
for
job.
he leaves one on the drink tray. Somebody's gonna find that one. I'll
Oh
buy
yeah,
all the other ones. The one on the drink tray, somebody's finding that.
he has lots of cameras in there now. Like he can see every room.
Yeah, but he can only see part of them because he has no periffs. Which, by the way,
Um,
that shot is really creepy.
the shot of his eye.
The shot of his not eye.
Yeah, honestly, I hate to say this. I actually have a big criticism about that.
Okay,
Did you
I
did you look at it close enough? You can see his real eye behind it.
oh, can you?
Yeah, and it's really glaring when they zoom in because they in on it so close, and he's got this like dangling skin. Like the makeup job looks really good. He's got this like dangling skin inside the eye socket. You can clearly see his real eye behind that. I don't know why they didn't put makeup over
I
his real.
assumed it was CGI. I didn't even notice.
It might have been, maybe that was the problem. Maybe some of it was CG and they could and they weren't able to chroma or whatever that the rest of the eye out. I don't know, but like what it looked like was that it was a makeup job where they put prosthetics on that side of the head so that they like popped out that eye and jetted it out to where like you can't see that it's longer than the other side or whatever.
Oh yeah.
That's what it looked like. I don't know if that's what they really did. I looked at it real hard. I paused it on the frame right before the credits when it gets really really close, and I'm telling you, man, I can see his eye clear as day, and it looks really bad.
Oh man, I didn't even catch that.
And it really bugged me. I hated that because my first reaction was that looks awesome, and then I saw his eye and I went, why couldn't you cover that up? What happened there? So yeah, it looked like a mistake.
Oh man.
I don't know if it was a mistake, but I can't see why in the world they would want him to still have an eye there.
I'm gonna have to rewatch it.
Yeah. So if somebody else picked up on something I didn't, let me know because I don't want to hate that. I thought the makeup job looked awesome, but it doesn't. I could see the eye. That was really weird. Oh, here's a funny. We'll just jump around a bit. Here's a funny question for you, Eric. Where does Oliver live?
Yep, I have the exact same note.
When Moira says, "If you're going to treat me like this, don't come by the house anymore," that is clearly implying that he doesn't live there anymore. Where does he live?
Does he just
Does he
always
live
live in the Arrow Cave?
in the Hero Cave? Because he didn't used to. I got the sense first season that he still lived at home.
I got the sense this season they still lived at home.
Yeah. So maybe there are other clues about that in other places that I missed, but I wondered about that. I thought that was an odd line to
Him and
me.
Sarah stay in the clock tower.
Yeah, that's what's going on. He stopped living there since he started hanging out with Sarah again.
But yeah, no, I actually had the same note.
Uh, where else do you want to jump around? Why don't we trade notes back and forth? Go ahead.
Okay, let's see. Okay, there's a line that I could be remembering wrong, but I remember I made a note about it and talked about it from way earlier in the season.
Yeah.
Where Sarah says that the last time she saw that hood, the outfit that Ollie's wearing, um, Shadow was wearing it. And
Oh,
that's
really?
clearly not the case. I could be
Yeah.
remembering wrong, but I have a
Always.
strong memory of her saying the last time she saw that hood, Shadow was wearing it.
I remember you bringing that up. So if that, yeah, wow. So that is inconsistent if that's the case.
Yeah.
Interesting. I didn't think of that. But now that you mentioned that, I do want to say that I thought all the origin stuff was really cool. Getting to see Oliver training and finally being an expert with a bow, because like they've they've drawn it out long
He's
enough, and
not
they've
an expert yet because he missed that one shot and he's like, there's a win.
because there was a breeze. Like it would have been a hard shot. You're right. No, he's not expert, but he's close. You know, a lot of the stuff that he has. I love how gradual that's been. I have been so impressed with this show for actually making me buy that that he's able to do the things he does in the time that he does them. I buy it hook, line, and sinker. I think it's fantastic. I loved getting to see the beginning of the push up thing, or I mean the pull up thing
Oh
on the tree.
yeah.
All that stuff was really cool. I like that he doesn't have the full blown costume right away; that he's getting it in pieces. That makes a lot of sense. Anyway, all that stuff was really cool to me. It felt very Batman Beginsy, in a good way, as far as just seeing origin stuff and seeing him put things together.
Yeah, it was I really dug all of that. I really liked his and obviously it's shown in the performance, but him and Sarah have that conversation where he says, if you make it back and I die, tell them that I wasn't the stupid kid I used to be.
Yeah, so I wanted to talk about that.
And I mean, you see it in his performance.
I thought that was a really important and poignant scene because and by the way, let me just say that generally I thought this was an incredibly dense episode. I felt like every scene I was writing a lot of stuff down, and I loved that scene a lot because I thought it was really interesting that it made a lot of sense that Oliver and Sarah want the opposite of how they're remembered by their families, and it makes perfect sense. Oliver is proud of who he's become on the island, and Sarah is not,
Yep.
and it makes a lot of sense. So like it's interesting because he says I don't want to be remembered as that stupid kid I was, and he and Sarah were both kind of like that. They were both really naive, and they were both immature and all of that stuff. But she'd rather be remembered as that than as a killer and as someone who helped out a mad scientist torture people. And I thought it was really cool that they gave us that scene in the same episode where she very nearly pays the mortal price for that.
Well, and isn't it interesting that when they both make it back, Oliver's playing up to the kind of dumb playboy, I haven't changed that much. And when she comes back, she's very much herself.
Yeah, that's right. And so they're acting opposite of the way they want to
Yeah.
because they can't because they have to. Yeah, that's really good stuff. So I mean, like I've talked a lot about how much I like the similarities of those two characters and how they have found themselves and become who they are off the island or on the island. But perhaps more interesting is how they're different.
Oh yeah.
So all that's really cool, and of course, I just love Katie Lotz a lot, and like she has, I think, turned out to be as good of an actor as a Mel, and so just seeing them play those roles in the past is always really exciting. What other notes do you have?
Okay. I'm going to make a slight rambly rant, and then I'm
Oh,
going to and then I'm going to explain why I'm wrong.
he's like, before anybody leaves a comment, I'm going to leave it for you.
Yeah, yeah.
Go
Okay.
ahead.
Slade's motivation for everything is incredibly weak.
Yeah,
He wasn't
I
he wasn't
yeah,
even with Shadow. Like he makes this comment where he's like, I'm gonna make you lose everything like I did. I was like, so you should have showed up first season. Where like Oliver went on one date with a girl and then got rid of her. Um, because it's just like he's so radical about this. And I know they kind of the explanation is basically, well, he's crazy because the Mirakuru. But I wish if you're gonna plan over 5 years to get revenge on someone, I kind of wish there was a better basis for that. Also, okay, so Ivo continuously throughout this episode keeps saying that Oliver's the one that killed her because he had to choose, which makes no sense and is really dumb. And Slade kind of seems to understand that it's dumb, but also treat it as if it's correct. Um, I don't know. I wish that there was more behind Slade's vengeance and rage.
It's a little Harry Osborn.
Yeah.
And I had that too, and yeah, it's awkward because it's another one of those things where, just like the thing we talked about earlier with Moira, they're almost getting away with it.
Well, and you know what makes it even worse or better? He sells it so well.
I
He
know
acts the
that's the
crap
thing.
out of
Is
it.
that I'm enjoying it so much that I almost don't care. I should care, but yeah, I'm loving it too much. And here's the thing: I do buy that he fell in love with Shadow.
Oh, I don't have a problem with that. My problem is she didn't know and they never got together.
Yeah, I know. And then again, where it's almost getting away with it is, well, the Mirakuru makes you crazy and it makes you super ultra passionate about stuff. Now, the thing I don't understand about this drug is
It's a very
uh,
selective crazy.
it's incredibly selective. Sarah's whole thing to Oliver early on is be really careful with Slade because remember he almost killed you that one time. And the thing is, when in his rage, when he grabbed Oliver a couple episodes ago, and I think that's really important, and almost killed him one handed, and then Oliver talked him down cause of Shadow. The thing is, the idea there seemed to be that this stuff makes you nuts in the moment, and that you can't control yourself if you get angry
Which
enough.
is what we've
But
seen with Roy.
everything that he's been doing and taking all that time to plan this out and being so meticulous about it, it's all premeditated. It's all like very deliberate and so like I think the idea is supposed to be that he has found a way to stay in that mindset of that rage that the Mirakuru has put him in constantly, to the point where he is able to control it, but it's gotten deep seated into his psyche. What's interesting about that is that then the lines are blurred. So it's like, well, it is the Murakuru, but it's also him. It's like he's made it do this to him.
His
And
secret
it's
is he's
almost like
always angry.
he I knew you were gonna say that. It's like he wants so badly to blame someone.
But he
Um
has Ivo. He's right
no,
there.
yeah, but he wants his pain to keep going. And if he blames it on Oliver, he can stretch it out. And like I don't know. I guess the problem is he could just torture Ivo forever, but that would be no fun for the audience.
Yeah, I
And
think
so
this all could have really easily been resolved if at the beginning of the season it wasn't Oliver and Shadow that was together, it was Slade and Shadow.
yeah, because what they seem to be trying to play up there was a love triangle. We talked about that. We were kind of worried about it, and I guess I like where they went more than if they had done just a straight up love triangle. But it's kind of weird because it's like he's playing it almost as if I want to blame you for this more than the guy who actually killed her because I was jealous of you that one time.
Yeah, I really wish that they'd been together at the beginning, and then I would feel like this rage was a bit more justified, and I could
That it
more
wasn't
get
just okay, he's crazy, because it's just not as interesting if he's just straight up crazy because he's on some kind of
well,
drug,
and
right?
at least then I can kind of rationalize. I mean, the whole thing about he's the one that killed him, he chose is dumb, but I can more rationalize that with him being crazy than, you were never really with her. You don't really know if she had feelings for you. Like, it comes off kind of high school.
Well, I guess part of what is what I'm finding weirder about it even is that Oliver isn't feeding him enough logic.
Yeah, no.
Because if it were me, and of course in the moment, like I'm trying to give him the benefit of the doubt. In the moment, maybe he's not thinking straight enough because after all, his best friend's trying to kill him, and he's trying to justify, or he can't justify the morality of lying to him in the first place, and all of that. And also, I don't mind that Oliver somewhat blames himself for Shadow's death. I don't mind
No,
that.
that makes sense. And the
That
fact that
makes sense.
Ivo knows that he'll blame himself also makes sense. My
Yeah,
problem
and
is that
that
Ivo keeps saying, "No, you killed her." And I'm like, "No, that doesn't make any sense."
well, and of course, to be fair, let's remember that Ivo is saying just like Sarah said he would, because Sarah knows him and she's very smart about her strategy in this.
Yeah,
That
yeah, that's
he's
true.
going to say whatever he needs to say. But Oliver should really be, and that's where I'm going with this. Oliver should really be latching on to what Ivo is saying and going, Slade, here's why what he's saying makes no sense and he's just trying to manipulate you.
I
Because
think the
Ivo,
idea is the way it's played is that he's too guilt-ridden to argue. It's kind of
yes,
like the ending of Lion King, where Scar's like, "No, no, you killed Mufasa. Tell them." And Simba's like, "It's kind of my fault." I think that's what it is that he does feel guilty.
yeah, and that's absolutely what it is. And yet, because there are things that I'm thinking of that are not in any way addressed in the episode, it makes it weirder for me. And so like I'm thinking of things like, and I'm not even saying that necessarily the show has to, but I would like to talk about it. There's stuff like, okay, first of all, it was an incredibly subtle choice, right? Like he doesn't say, okay, I guess I have to choose, so I pick her. Ivo chooses, like, the thing is, they're not even talking about the way the scene really played.
Yeah, because
Because,
he's about to shoot Sarah, and then he runs in front of Sarah, and then he shoots Shadow.
well, what I was going to say is, Oliver, he basically just shoots the first one that Oliver looks at.
Yeah.
Like, he turns his head, if I'm remembering it right, he turns his head, and then that's who gets killed. Now, Oliver in his mind is saying, yeah, I made a choice, and he did make a choice, but it's so subtle that wouldn't it be easy for Oliver to say to Slade, I never even verbalized it. My eyes went somewhere, and he shot her. He never says anything like that. And you could say, well, he doesn't want to lie to Slade, but like that'd be the lesser of two evils, right? Because he's been lying to him by omission this whole time. Like if I had been Oliver, I would have earlier maybe told him what happened, but say I didn't mean for it to happen. But I can understand why he didn't do that because he's afraid of Slade because he's on the Mirakuru. He's crazy, and also keep in mind that Slade's lying to the both of them because he kept the rest of it.
Right. Yeah,
You know,
that
and so
was
he's not.
really interesting.
It was. So he's not to be trusted. He's probably going to inject himself with more. And I would assume. But the other thing that I was thinking was Oliver has a really good chance here to turn things around a little bit and say, look at this from my perspective, put yourself in my shoes. What would have happened had I killed Sarah? Had I let Sarah die? Because on the one hand, okay, yeah, there's Shadow and you're in love with her, though I don't know that Oliver even knew that.
No, and I mean, he was with Shadow.
He was with her, yeah. And the other thing is, it is also his fault that Sarah is in this predicament in the first place.
Right.
If I were Oliver and I was stuck in that sadistic choice place and there was no way around sort of picking with my eyes, I might have made the exact same choice he made.
Because he feels responsible for her.
Yeah, exactly. She's his responsibility. Like Shadow's dad is dead. She has no one now. Sarah, and I mean, like, I don't mean to be crass about it, or unsympathetic towards Shadow, but if insensitive. But on the other hand, like, what is Oliver doing to this girl's whole family? And of course, we've been seeing the way that played out. When they thought she was dead. So that's all really interesting. So I don't know. I mean, like I just there's a part of me that can't help but think Oliver kind of had a couple arguments he might have made. I don't think it would have changed anything.
Yeah, it works in the scene. I'm much harder rationalizing it over a 5-year period.
Yeah, and I'm starting to side with you a little bit on that argument of how are they gonna play 3 more years of Island stuff after this?
Yeah.
And I'm not criticizing it. I'm really excited to see
Well, we
what they
still know
else they
he has to. They keep like there's a mention of the Russian mob here, and we know he
yeah.
has to get hooked up with them and get the tattoos. Um,
Well, I guess it's always possible that when you get into season 3, that there's just a lot less island stuff. There's no reason that we can't get into a formula because this thing is somewhat inconsistent. It's not always really formulaic about the island stuff. They could have entire episodes where we just don't do
well,
that,
I'm assuming that next season will go back to more like first season, where it's not as connected to what's going on now. I think
and where it's not as linear. I guess it's always been linear, but like this has felt like two major arcs building with each
well,
other all
and
season.
we found out kind of why when we got the reveal of Slade. Is I think this is all important to right now, and maybe next season we will get another island arc that's not tied to present day, so it won't feel
Yeah.
as. Um, Although again, it's going to be weird. Like, is Sarah going to be there? The whole time? It's kind of like the Notebook. Like we've kind of forgotten about that on the island. Um, I don't know. It'll be interesting. I think the island stuff is in a really interesting place right now.
Yeah, it really is. And I really love, and I'm not dogging you, Eric, when I say this, but I really love that after your comment last episode of I can't remember what's going on in the island stuff, they did this one.
I feel like I was in that place last season, right
I'm so
before the
glad they did
island
that. I think you
episode.
might have said the exact same thing before we got to a full island episode, and you're like, oh, you've been building to this. Well, never mind then.
Yeah. Well, and I think the island's in a really interesting place because, like, just on the very most basic level, and I don't know if they'll address it, but there's now a bunch of people on the island. How are they going to get fresh water and food for a bunch of people?
Yeah.
Um, and what happens to all those people? Because they're not there when the boat shows up in episode 1.
And also, how incredibly unpredictable was that reveal? I would have never guessed Slade was taking the boat.
Oh, no.
That was great stuff, man. When you start at We're Brothers, now I figured that given what was going on in present day, that this was going to be the episode where of course they became enemies. But like when you start with We're Brothers, and you end with now I've put you in a cell and taken over the ship. That's
And
cool.
cut off
They
a
did
dude's hand right in front of you.
they kind of did the whole Smallville Clark and Lex relationship in an episode.
Oh, yeah. Well, and
Now that I'm thinking about it.
I'm going to save it for my predictions because I have a theory about what's going to happen.
Okay, cool. Let's do a few more notes real quick before we go to best moment, worst moment. What else did you
Uh,
that you'd like to talk about?
Ivo's talking to presumably his wife named Jessica,
Yes.
who I don't remember her being mentioned before, but gives a little bit more sympathy to Ivo and what he's doing. Not enough to make it okay, but we know why he's doing this now. I think this has never been mentioned before.
I don't think it has either. Sarah didn't know about it because she's always saying he's doing this to save the world. And that's what he keeps talking about. And that's not what it is at all. It's personal. And I like that it's personal. I think it's interesting, just a footnote, that he has a similar motivation to Clock King.
Yeah, I picked up on that too.
But that in this case it seems sadder and more desperate. Well, I guess more desperate only because he's gone all the way this far to cure his wife, but also because it's always really sad when you have somebody with dementia like that, where like she's on the phone with him and she doesn't remember anything, and she repeats herself, and she doesn't even know that who she's talking to is her husband. So yeah, they gave him a little bit more sympathy, and I felt like kind of showed that the reason he's been sort of driven mad, and I think it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, I really like that. And I'm wondering if we'll get more with that. I'm kind of wondering if Slade's gonna hunt her down and kill her.
I don't know if you will, because one thing that I've been finding really weird about Slade is that he's kind of not blaming Ivo as much as I'd think he would. I mean, okay, he cut his arm off, so there's that. But I'm
Yeah.
just not sure. Yeah, I don't mean to belittle that, but at the same time, I kind of feel like he wants to punish Oliver and punish Oliver, and I kind of think he's keeping Ivo alive more just for the operation of the boat and stuff,
Yeah.
and because he knows about the Mirakuru and all that stuff. But I guess we'll see where all that goes. He could have plans to do the same thing to Ivo he's doing to Oliver. You make a good point. I really liked Oliver's deception when he gets injected, where he says they have a raft. And the reason I liked that so much was because that's what you predicted, or somebody I forget predicted last episode, that when they had the parachute thing, one of us was like, maybe they're going to build a raft. When you get to that point, you don't know what they're going to do with the parachutes yet. And I didn't know that what he was saying to Ivo was a deception. When he says they're in the engine room, I kind of thought they were in the engine room.
Right.
And then when you flip back over to them and they do the parachutes, it's really cool that they made us wait for that, because when we see what the actual plan is, it's so much cooler.
Oh yeah.
I loved the parachute thing. Now, I did question the parachute bit going off without a hitch. I liked it. I liked Slade saying nobody's ever done this before, but given that they don't really know what they're doing, and there is a lot of wind, and Oliver couldn't make an arrow go where he wanted to because there was a breeze, I wasn't sure I bought that they landed where they wanted to.
I've got two other notes.
Go right ahead.
One is Roy's here hanging out with the group as if
I
he's
was gonna
always
say that.
there.
Yep. Oh man, that was so contrived. It was like, well, not even contrived. He should have just been there in other episodes. Because when you finally get there, it's like, okay, so you finally put him in the Arrow Cave after 2 episodes of us going, where is he? Just because he's about to be important.
Yep. Um, and my other note is Slade's eye doesn't look like it was shot with an arrow. It looks like it's been scooped out with an ice cream scooper. And earlier in this episode, we have Ivo telling somebody that he needs an eye for his research. I don't think Ollie took out his eye. I think Ivo does.
We actually had, and this was actually the comment from Facebook I wanted to mention. John Clay on Facebook made the same note, and he wondered if Slade donated his eye to Ivo. I think Oliver did shoot him, but I think that it was probably in such a way, and given like their lack of really good medical equipment and stuff, that probably he got stabbed. It was infected, and they had to scoop it out like that.
Oh, yeah, good point.
That'd be my guess, was that it really did happen that way, but the only way they could get it out was to scoop it out like
I
that.
just thought it was really interesting that Ivo said, I need an eye for my research. And then when we
Yeah.
finally see under the eye patch, it's just completely no eye.
I had just a couple more notes myself. I I thought this is minor but funny. I've been wondering this for a while now, but now that we finally saw a bag, it was glaring to me. How do these people, the people that Oliver works with, how does everybody stay in such good shape if they're constantly eating burgers from Big Belly Burger? Constantly eating fast food. Like the last 2 episodes, it's been mentioned I'm gonna go get burgers, and I'm like, dude, how do you stay in that kind of shape if you're constantly eating
I
hamburgers?
think you can constantly eat hamburgers as long as you're doing that lifty bar thing.
Yeah, everybody has to do that 25 times a day, and then they can eat at Big Belly Burger as long as they want to. Finally, I'm not sure how Oliver deduces that the Man in the Skull Mask and Solomon Grundy were all Slade.
Yep, I have the same thing.
I'm not sure how he came to that conclusion, because there are plenty of other bad guys he's come up against this
Well,
season.
actually, those were the only ones involving Mirakuru.
Oh, you're right, they were. Okay, never mind. You win. That's right.
Oh, also, Diggle gets to do something and is immediately kidnapped.
Yep, there's that, and I wondered. I guess this is my only prediction, but I'll mention it now. I wondered if that's probably going to, for some reason, lead to his joining up with
Well,
Suicide
next
Squad.
episode is Suicide Squad, so I assume so.
Yeah, and we've seen pictures on Twitter and stuff that he's with them, so I'm going to assume that's how that happens. Okay, well, let's go on to best moment, worst moment. What was your favorite moment, Eric?
I think it's pretty obvious. It's the final, I was gonna say throwdown, but it's more of like a word down, between
The
Oliver and
word.
Slade on the boat. Just that whole scene. Again, a lot of the logic's not particularly sound, but it's just acted so well by Amel and the guy that plays Slade and the guy that plays Ivo. That sequence is just fantastic.
Yeah, I had the exact same thing.
I assume
That,
so.
that's yeah. Well, I mean, like it's all kind of been leading up to that in a lot of ways, and I think it's really interesting that like a flashback feels in a lot of ways to be like a huge moment for the season. Like it's all been working up to this.
Yeah.
And it's a flashback. Yeah, it's really cool. I didn't have a worse moment. I enjoyed
I
everything about this.
have I have two really like minor things,
Okay,
just
go
because
ahead.
I couldn't come up with anything. One is Sarah's delivery of his name is Slade Wilson is really weird.
Really?
Yeah, when it starts zooming in on her and she says his name is Slade Wilson, she just kind of says weird. I can't explain it any more than that. The other one is I was a little bummed that Slade puts on the mask. We barely see him with it, and then he doesn't have the mask. I kind of wish he wore the mask a little bit more on the boat.
Yeah. Well, you're all about the costumes.
Well, I wouldn't even have mentioned it if it wasn't for the fact that they made a deal out of him putting the mask on.
I did think I did kind of like the kind of I mean it's obvious, but I like the kind of symbolic shot of the mask before he puts it on, where you see part of it in
Oh
shadow.
yeah, that was cool. Well, and then
That
we
was
get
and
we get that
I
shot
also
again at the end, but he already is missing an eye, so it's kind of weird.
I also like that he is becoming uh, Deathstroke both in his in wearing the mask and in kind of he's turning to a life of villainy all at the same time. I thought that was really cool that they went there. There's a reason thematically they have him put that mask on when they do.
Oh yeah,
I really like that. Okay, well we can briefly do what's the big idea. I think it's all pretty
I
obvious, but go
have
ahead.
I have one sentence.
Yes.
There's no politics here, just good old fashioned revenge.
Yeah, you're right. That's definitely a big thing. There's of course, at least with Ivo and the flashback stuff, there's the whole dangerous science in the wrong hands thing. That's been building. Necessity of lies, then consequences of lies, and the whole moving on and the unwillingness to do so thing.
A lot of it's kind of stuff that's been building throughout the season, kind of being brought to the forefront thematically.
Guest stars, we have two big ones this time. Hendrik von Arnhem was the character who grabs Sarah at the end and tries to kill her for helping out Ivo. He's played by a guy named Artine Brown, who's a character actor who amusingly played Oliver Queen's technician in a Smallville episode.
Oh, that's cool.
And he's been a lot of sci-fi stuff: Human Target, Stargate, X-Files. And James Pizzanato played Thomas Flynn, who's the preacher guy with the rats.
Who I
And
looked up and down online
yep, I
because,
did too. He's not anybody.
and not only that, but I found like message board postings of people being like, surely this is somebody.
Yeah, a lot of people think that he probably is. Something I found was that Thomas Flynn is apparently a name that a lot of like traveling pastors use, and
Oh,
so that's probably not his real name, and he could actually be somebody comic book, and they'll reveal it
he's
later.
probably the
Um,
Joker.
I had a tough time buying that guy with his motifs and things was a completely made up character.
I really
With
liked
this,
him. I
yeah,
thought he gave a really good performance.
yeah, with this show, he's got to be
But I
somebody.
couldn't come up with any character that I can think of that's a priest.
Me neither, and that's why it's gonna be really interesting when we finally find out who he is. But that doesn't mean that he can't be a made up character. I thought he was really interesting.
He's
I,
full
I,
of
I like him
humor.
a lot. He's another character actor. He's been in things like Fringe, Caprica, and Flashpoint. All right, favorite
Not that
lines.
Flashpoint.
Not that Flashpoint.
Um,
What was your favorite line this
my
episode, Eric?
favorite line was when Sarah tells Oliver that even though the truth serum won't work on him, he's gonna have to act high. And he says, "Luckily for me, before all this, I had a lot of practice."
I can't believe I wrote down the same line. I had that too. I
Oh,
thought that was great.
really?
Yes, I wrote that too. I thought it was
I
great.
was like,
Did
"There's
you?
no way that Cap will pick the pot joke."
but it was really the delivery was great. That's the
Yeah.
thing. Like Amell makes those lines work for me and funny. And I also really appreciated that as dark and suspenseful as this episode was, there were a couple moments of levity like that. I also had the line that the pastor guy has, Thomas Flynn, when he says, "Can you imagine a better place for a man in my line of work?"
Oh, it's great.
That was the moment where I went, "This guy is cool."
Yeah.
Now we'll go on to comic book references. There are not many in this one.
Unless
Unusual,
Thomas Flynn is somebody.
unless he's somebody. But the other one that is a thing is a couple of DC artists were mentioned in the scene with the gallery. Some of the painters that Moira and Thea are talking about are DC Comics
Oh,
writers,
I didn't catch that.
Curtis Swan and Joe Cooper.
Oh, since we're doing this comment thing now, where we're gonna talk
Yes.
about comments, I would love to see some people give us thoughts on who they think Flynn is.
Oh yeah, sure.
With like an explanation like, well, here's a character that is a priest or has been a priest before. He might
One
be Hunt.
one that people
He's a
he's not
priest.
one that people on the internet when I was doing some research were guessing it could be, and I think this is a stretch, is the Pied Piper, who is a Flash
That
villain
feels
that
like a
they have.
stretch given that there's a Flash show coming out.
But what I was going to say is that it's already apparently been mentioned that that is going to be a character they're going to use on that show, and so some people are speculating maybe this is how he gets introduced,
Oh, I see.
which I guess could happen. Who knows? But it sounds like that guy is going to be in the first season of the Flash show, so this could be him with the whole rat motif, but it might not be. So anyway, that was the thing. I didn't really have any other predictions besides the one I mentioned. What do you have?
Um, I have two. One's not completely serious, but I'm just gonna take a wild guess and immediately first scene next episode, somebody takes out Slade, and that's just the end of that. Um,
I don't think that's gonna happen.
no one would see it coming.
Pretty sure if he dies, it's not until the end of the season.
Nah, I just a random mugging. It'll be like Highlander season 2. Um, and then I'm gonna okay. So Slade has the Mirakuru. He kept it, and he didn't kill Ivo. I think he's gonna try and get Ivo to bring Shadow back with Mirakuru. Whether it works or not, I don't know, but I think he's gonna try and get him to do it.
I would bet you money you're right about that. I love that you said that. Good call. Yep, I did not even think of that. That's really cool. I still think this whole Mirakuru thing is gonna have everything to do with the League of Shadows.
Yeah,
I still think
we've kind of eased
I
off on
still
League of Shadows past couple
yeah, I
episodes.
still think Mirakuru is in this universe the exact same thing as Lazarus.
Yeah, probably.
And especially because Slade with the Mirakuru thing has been so big, and then Sarah goes with the League of Shadows. Like it seems pretty likely. All right, well that's it. Let's go ahead and go on to trivia now. What was your trivia question from last time, and what was the answer, Eric?
All right, my trivia question from last time was that in the late 80s, there were two series running at the same time that featured Black Canary. In one, she did not have her sonic scream or canary cry, and in the other, she did, and they're both in continuity and took place at the same time. Those series were Green Arrow by Mike Grell. She doesn't have the canary cry at all in that series. And I believe there's an annual or like a thing in like Secret Origins that explains what happened to the Canary Cry. Well, at the same time in Justice League International, she did have the Canary Cry and the single worst costume possibly ever.
Was she characterized a lot differently?
Well, that book was almost a sitcom, so yes.
Oh, okay, but
Actually, yeah, completely because Grell really went into because you remember in Longbow Hunters where she's strung up and tortured.
yeah.
In Grell's run, she becomes like a victim's advocate. So obviously she was dealing with some heavy themes in that book, and in JLI she's goofing around with Blue Beetle and Booster Gold.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Yeah. She's basically being a character in Superior Foes of Spider-Man.
Exactly. Have you seen her her costume in Just League International?
Huh? No, I haven't.
All right, I'm gonna send you a picture of it while you go through your trivia question.
Okay. My trivia question from last time was, according to the Clock King, how many pages was his copy of War and Peace? And it was, and I don't think anybody got this. It was exactly 1,440
I
pages.
should note that people did get there was at least one person that got my question.
A lot of people were around mine and in the ballpark. I don't remember if anybody actually wrote down the exact number. Okay, Eric, what is your question for this time, sir?
My question for this time is I was actually having trouble coming up with a question for this week, so I think I've actually given the answer to this in a previous episode.
Oh, okay.
But my question, so if you know if you want to see, go back and rewatch all the episodes. But how did Slade lose his eye in the comics?
Okay,
Which is
cool.
less of a trivia question, more of a wiki search. But
Actually, don't right off know that. So I'll have to read some Deathstroke.
well, you have to read some Wolfman Teen Titans.
Oh, okay, okay. Well, you've at least told us where it happens. My question for this week, of course, from the episode, is what is Oliver Queen's middle name? Another middle name question. They gave it to us this episode.
Methuselah.
It's not. It's not Oliver Methuselah Queen.
Click that link I just sent you.
Oh, okay.
I want an on mic reaction to her
My
80s
reaction
costume.
of the thing that's not on screen. Maybe we'll try to put it in the description. Yeah, that's pretty god awful, isn't it? Wow, that's rough. Wow, what's really crazy about it too is that the frills come off of it.
Oh yeah, and there's an action figure of it where it's
Oh,
made like that.
that's not. She doesn't even look like Black Canary.
No, you wouldn't know it.
You never know. You take one look at that and be like, well, what made up '90s character is that? She must have been on the Justice League with Fire and Ice.
And I guess it's worth noting that she was in her standard costume in Grell's run as well.
Wow, that whole thing. It looks like she'd just get really hot in it.
Yeah.
Know? Like I don't know how you'd fight. Wow, that is the most unattractive costume I've ever seen. Maybe not the most, but it's up there. Wow. Okay. Anyway, well, we'll try to put that in the description so that everybody else can look at that and be like, what? Anyway, Eric, our show once again is 52 minutes long, so we're gonna leave everybody here.
I didn't catch
And
any
thanks,
52s this episode.
Nope, I didn't either. Well, thanks everybody as always for listening to Arrow Discussion. Sure hope you enjoyed it. Please leave comments. Please leave your insightful ideas and predictions for
Thomas Flynn.
this for later episodes, and also anything you want to correct us on that we might have been mistaken about. Feel free to leave those too, and feel free to send us questions about the upcoming episode after it's aired. I'm Captain Logan,
I'm Eric.
and we'll see you next time.